$1,049. That's the price Valve put on the base Steam machine when it was unveiled on June 22nd, and it landed about $300 over what almost everyone expected. And the reason Valve gave is the part nobody saw coming. The companies that sell them memory hand over a price once a month, take it or leave it, and there's something they admitted out loud that should worry every single person who buys a computer.
This is Professor Erica, and that admission is the whole story today. Valve's Pierre-Luc Griffet told the channel Gamers Nexus there is no contract at all. The memory makers quote a price and a quantity each month, and it is simply yes or no. Today we are going deeper than one console. We are following that monthly price all the way back to the data centers quietly buying up the world's memory, and forward to the one decision it forces on anyone shopping right now. There is a way to spend far less and barely notice the difference, and most buyers walk right past it.
Hey everyone, Kai here, and the line that stopped me cold was the leverage math. Griffet said, and I am quoting, "If we say no, then they never talk to us again." That is not a negotiation. That is a one-way door, and Valve is on the wrong side of it.
Hi all, I'm Kim. The handbook word for that is monopsony pressure, when a handful of suppliers set the terms and the buyer has no real exit. And here it is, two firms holding most of the market saying yes or no once a month.
And the reason that lands so hard is the absence of a contract. In most of business, a big buyer signs a deal, locks a price, and plans a year ahead. Valve is telling us none of that exists here. The price is whatever it is on the first of the month.
Which is wild when you sit with it. Valve could build that machine, sell it, and only then find out next month's memory cost them more than they charged. No company can plan around that, so they price defensively and pass the fear straight to you.
So Valve, a company with billions of dollars, has the same leverage at the memory counter as you do, none. And if that's true for them, the warning underneath this whole thing is really about the entire personal computer market.
Before we go further, let me show you the actual thing every dollar of this is about. 2 ordinary memory sticks. These are consumer DDR5 modules, the kind that have always been the boring, cheap part of a build. The upgrade you bought without thinking. 16 gigabytes used to be a quiet $80 purchase.
And that boring part is now one of the most expensive decisions in the whole machine. That is the inversion we are here to explain. The cheap thing became the bottleneck, and just to size it for you. A 32 gigabyte kit that sat around $80 for years has, by some retail trackers, pushed past $400 at the peak. That is not a sale tag flickering. That is a 4 times jump on the single part you used to ignore.
Keep that picture of 2 ordinary sticks in your head, because the whole episode is the story of how the boring $80 part turned into the most expensive decision on the build. Kai, you've been tracking the comments on this, so put the big question to us.
Yes, and it's the one I keep seeing in every comment section, sometimes a dozen times under one video. People are asking, is this a real shortage that genuinely hurts me, or are the memory companies just squeezing us because they finally can?
Hold that exact question, because the answer is more interesting than a yes or no. To settle it, we have to follow your memory back to where it actually went, and what we found there explains every price tag in this story. Here is the answer to that question, and it is both. There is a genuine supply squeeze, and the people with the supply are pricing like they know it. Neither half is the whole truth, and the comment fights happen because people only see one half. Let me show you exactly where your memory went.
The cost sits in one place, the artificial intelligence build-out. The data centers training and running these models need enormous amounts of a special memory called HBM, high bandwidth memory, the fast stuff stacked right next to the chips. And they are not buying it the way you and I buy a stick. They are buying entire factory runs years in advance.
Let me run the squeeze through an example, because the numbers do the arguing here. Picture a memory factory as a fixed pie of wafer capacity. It can only make so much per month, period. Now the catch. Counterpoint research says that AI memory, the HBM, eats about 3 times the wafer space of normal DRAM for the same amount you get. So every slice the factory hands to AI takes 3 slices out of the pie.
That ratio is the whole game right there. People assume the factories just slowed down, but it's worse than that. They are running flat out and still making less of your kind of memory because the AI version swallows so much more of the line.
Right, which means the part left over for your gaming stick shrinks fast, even if the factory never slows down. Less consumer memory made, same hungry crowd, and the price does the only thing it can. It climbs hard.
And the numbers are not subtle. Straight from the supply chain reporting, a 16 gigabit DDR5 chip went from about $6.84 in September of last year to about $27.20 by December. That is close to 300% in a single quarter.
Think about what that does to a spec sheet. The chip is one of the smallest line items on a build, and it just tripled while you weren't looking. That cost has to go somewhere, and it goes onto the sticker you pay. Here's the part that tells you it isn't ending tomorrow. SK Hynix, one of the 2 giants who make most of the world's memory, told investors its capacity is sold out through 2026. The shelf is empty before the year even starts.
To put real weight behind this, we called in someone who watches these supply chains for a living. Let me bring in Priya Nandakumar.
Happy to join. The thing people miss is that this is not a normal upcycle. The memory makers spent 2023 and 2024 losing money, so they are deliberately keeping capacity tight even as demand explodes. Tight supply plus desperate AI buyers is a once-in-a-decade pricing setup.
So if I'm hearing you right, the shortage is real, but the makers are also choosing not to rush in and fix it. And I have to say the carefulness gives some viewers pause, because these same companies were once caught running an illegal price-fixing cartel on memory 2 decades ago.
That history is real, and it is fair to keep in mind, but what we are seeing now does not need a conspiracy to explain it. It is rational firms with scarce capacity and a single buyer, the AI industry, willing to pay almost anything. That alone produces these prices. Exactly. Building a new memory fab takes years, not months, and they have been burned by overbuilding before. So they would rather ride high prices than flood the market. Both things are true at once, a real constraint and a very comfortable one for them.
Priya, give us the number that matters to a buyer. When does this actually ease off?
The honest forecast is patience. Most analysts I follow don't see meaningful relief before late 2027 because new capacity simply can't arrive faster than that. You may see small dips along the way, but the structural shortage outlasts the headlines.
That is the honest version, and it is the answer to our viewers' question. It is a true squeeze that the squeezers are in no hurry to relieve. Thanks, Priya. Now let's put a dollar figure on what that did to one specific machine, real quick, because this next part matters to you. If any of this is helping, tap that like button, then hit subscribe and ring the bell so the next one finds you. Both are free and take about a second, but they tell the algorithm to show this to one more person who needs it.
Roughly $300. That is what the memory crisis bolted onto the Steam machine before a single unit shipped, and I want to walk the math so you can see it land. Let me build the receipt line by line, because this is the same arithmetic that hits any pre-built machine right now, not just this one.
Start with the number Valve was aiming for. Reporting puts the intended base price around $750, which would have set it right next to a PlayStation 5.
Then the memory market went sideways, and the bill jumped by roughly $300. Add it up and you land at $1,049, the price that made people in Valve's own framing spit out their water. And remember, not $1 of that surcharge bought you more machine. And the damage was not only the price tag itself. It reached deep into the specs, which is the quiet part most of the coverage skipped right past.
Valve told Gamers Nexus it was, and I'm quoting, quite literally impossible to buy 8GB modules at the quantities they needed, because everyone wants the higher density, more profitable parts. So they shipped a single 16GB stick instead of the 2 they planned.
And a single stick instead of a pair matters more than it sounds. 2 sticks run in what's called dual channel, which roughly doubles the memory lanes feeding the chip. Think of it as a 2-lane highway versus a 1-lane road into the processor. So the shortage did 2 things in one move. It raised the price and it quietly clipped the performance, and the spec sheet only shows you the first one. That is the hidden tax inside the visible one.
Now zoom out, because this is the real point. Every pre-built desktop, every gaming laptop, every mini PC is getting the exact same surcharge baked in. Valve just told you out loud what your pre-built spec sheet will not, and that honesty is the only reason we can trace it at all.
Picture Marcus, a college freshman shopping for his first gaming desktop with a strict $1,200 budget. A year ago, that money bought a strong machine with 32 gigabytes of memory to spare. Today, the same budget either drops him to 16 gigabytes or forces a weaker graphics card to keep the memory. He didn't change. The memory market did, and it quietly ate a tier of his build.
Kim, I can see you've been holding a question on this since the receipt went up. Go ahead and put it to the room.
I have, because it's the nuance that decides what people actually do. If a single stick costs less and performs worse, does buying 2 sticks now even make sense? Or do you just live with one until prices fall?
That is the right question, and it has a real answer that depends on you. For pure gaming at higher resolutions, one fast stick is often fine. For heavy multitasking or creative work, the second stick earns its keep. Hold that thought because it leads straight into the bigger decision.
So here's the decision sitting in front of anyone holding an empty memory slot right now. Buy today at painful prices, or wait it out and hope the market breaks your way. There is real money on both sides, so let's actually argue it. Kay is going to make the case for acting now and buying smart. Kim is going to make the case for waiting, with the forecasts behind her. I'll keep us honest and call the verdict at the end.
If you need the machine to work today, waiting is a fantasy tax. Prices have tripled, yes, but a build you can't use is worth exactly $0 to you. The move is to buy the minimum that does the job. One fast stick, or step down to a proven DDR4 platform and stop bleeding time.
Hold on, the data says patience is paying already. A TrendForce tracked correction has US DDR5 retail prices down more than 20% in the last month. If you can wait, the trend just turned in your favor.
20% off a tripled price is still a doubled price.
Fair, and I won't pretend it's cheap, but the same analysts say meaningful relief doesn't arrive until late 2027, and SK Hynix is sold out through next year. So if you wait with eyes open. This is a dip in a long climb, not a collapse, and anyone promising a crash by spring is guessing.
And that's exactly why I say buy the floor, not the dream. Here's my honest concession though. If you buy now, you are paying the worst prices in a decade and you will watch them drop. That genuinely stings. But there's a cheaper path most people skip in a panic. You do not have to buy the newest, hungriest memory at all to get a great machine right now.
Say that path out loud, because the book backs you here. Gaming performance between DDR4 and DDR5 is nearly identical at 1440 and 4K, allows generation platform games just as well for a fraction of the memory cost. So the steelman for waiting is simple. If your current machine still runs, do nothing, let the correction work, and revisit in a few months. The downside is honest too. You might wait a long time for the relief that really matters.
And the steelman for buying is that your time has value too. The con of my side is real, you overpay today. The con of waiting is you put your life on hold for a chip price. Pick the regret you can actually live with.
All right, here's my verdict, and the sourced forecasts back it. It splits by who you are. If your PC still works, Kim wins this one, and here's what I'd actually do. Do nothing, the TrendForce correction is real, and there is nothing to gain by buying at the peak. But if you genuinely need a working machine right now, Kai wins. Buy the minimum that does the job and lean on a DDR4 platform to dodge the worst of the surcharge. Either way, you are buying for your real need.
And one rule holds for everyone, Nova. The published forecasts and the SK Hynix sellout both say this is a long crisis, not a weekend sale.
Which is why the worst move is to panic buy a maxed out kit out of fear. That's the only choice that's wrong for everyone. So walk away with this one rule. Buy for what you actually do, never for the headline number. So here's the whole story in one breath. Valve's warning wasn't really about a console. It's that a handful of memory makers now set the price of computing each month because the AI build-out is eating the supply, and that cost lands on every machine you might buy.
And we kept it honest in both directions today. We did not cry conspiracy because the supply squeeze is real and physical. We also did not let the makers off the hook because they are clearly comfortable riding these prices rather than racing to relieve them. The truth was the middle, and the middle is where your money lives.
And the thing you can actually use tonight is this. Before you buy any pre-built or any RAM kit, check whether a single stick or a DDR4 platform covers what you really do. You can dodge most of this surcharge without losing real performance.
The one-line version, if you only remember one thing. Buy for your actual need, not for the spec sheet headline, because today that headline is mostly memory panic priced in. The cheapest part on the build is the one quietly setting the price now. Next time we want to follow the other half of the squeeze, the one quietly hitting your storage. Because if memory got this bad, wait until you see what's happening to the price of solid-state drives.
If this helped you make sense of why your cart suddenly got more expensive, do me one favor and hit like and subscribe so we can keep digging into the stories behind the prices you actually pay. And here's the one we couldn't settle today. If memory prices stay high into 2028, do you finally buy at the peak, or do you just hold on to your current machine for years longer? Tell us in the comments. The second dataset clarifies the first. Always check the second one.
Solid 9, Nova. I had to rewind a section because I was taking genuine notes. This is Professor Erica. Thanks for watching and signing off.